Welcome back to the deep dive, the place where we take those dense, compelling sources and, well, try to make them fascinating and clear for you.
Yeah, and today we've got a really big one, a genuine mystery figure from the book of Revelation.
Absolutely. We're jumping into chapters 10 and 11 today, wrestling with just who is this mighty angel descending from heaven?
It's a question that's sparked centuries of debate. Angelos Istyros, a strong angel. Sounds straightforward enough, maybe.
But it's not, is it?
Not at all. The way he's described, his appearance, his actions, they seem to point towards something much, much more than just a messenger.
So that's our mission today.
Hmm.
We're using source material that gives us this detailed theological breakdown, almost like a celestial lineup.
Exactly. We're going to look at everything, the visuals, the posture, the commands he gives or seems to give.
And weigh it all against what we know about Jesus Christ. Is this figure just a really powerful angel, or is it Christ himself in some unique apocalyptic form?
We're digging into Revelation 10, verses 1 through 11, and then chapter 11, verses 1 to 3. Plus, we'll pull in some key cross-references about resurrection, Christ's nature, what angels do.
It sounds complex, and it is, but it's so crucial for understanding this part of Revelation. Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we start?
Start right at the beginning, the entrance. It's incredibly dramatic, almost cinematic.
Yeah, the visual evidence is where all the questions and, frankly, the awe really begin. Okay, so John's vision, it starts with just raw power, doesn't it? This angel is mighty, descending, wrapped in a cloud.
Right. And straight away, that wrapped in a cloud detail should grab our attention. It's not just weather.
No, we see clouds associated with God's presence, with Christ's arrival, all through the Bible.
Exactly. The Transfiguration, prophecies of the Second Coming, it signals divine weight, divine gravity from the outset.
And then his attire. The description John gives is so specific, packed with meaning. First up, a rainbow over his head.
And that's clue number one, isn't it? A big one. Because rainbows in this context aren't just pretty light phenomena.
No, they're linked to God's glory. You mentioned Ezekiel.
Yeah, Ezekiel 1.28. When he sees the vision of God's throne, the glory around it is like a rainbow in the clouds. It's explicit.
And Revelation itself does this too. Chapter 4, the figure on the throne has a rainbow around him, like an emerald.
So this mighty angel is basically wearing the insignia of the throne room. It suggests a really intimate connection to God's sovereign presence, his holiness.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there. His face.
His face is like the sun, blindingly brilliant.
And his feet.
Like pillars of fire, again, overwhelming light, brilliance, maybe judgment, holiness.
Mm-hmm.
It's intense imagery.
So the look is cosmic, but
Yeah.
then there's his stance, his posture.
Ah, yes. The stance itself is like a declaration. He's holding a small scroll. We'll get to that. But look where he puts his feet.
Right foot on the sea, left foot on the land.
That is just
Ugh.
immense. That symbolizes total authority over the entire created world, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sea and land, the whole globe.
Would a regular angel, even a powerful one, take a stance like that?
It's hard to imagine. Unless they are the direct, visible embodiment of the ultimate sovereign's authority in that moment. It's a claim over creation.
Okay, so appearance, divine,
Mhm.
stance, universal authority. What about his voice?
Revelation 10.3, he cries out, a loud voice. And John compares it to.
The roaring of a lion.
And here's where the identity debate just ignites, because the lion in Revelation isn't just any strong animal.
No, it's the symbol for Christ, Revelation 5.5.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The elder tells John, weep no more. Behold, the lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has conquered. The lion is the Messiah.
So if this angel is roaring like the lion,
It makes it incredibly difficult to argue he isn't Christ, or at least directly manifesting Christ's specific identity marker.
yeah.
The connection is almost unavoidable.
And what happens when he roars?
7 thunders utter their voices, like cosmic reverberations.
Sound beyond comprehension almost. John's told not to write it down.
Yeah, it's like a layer of divine communication that's sealed, too potent, or maybe just not relevant for the immediate prophecy John has to deliver, but stepping back from the thunders.
The main point here is the similarity to Christ's appearance elsewhere,
Exactly. Our sources really emphasize comparing this to Revelation chapter 1.
where Jesus appears to John on Patmos.
Yes. Look at the parallels. In chapter 1, Christ has eyes like fire, feet like burnished bronze, very close to pillars of fire, a voice like many waters, which suggests that same overwhelming power.
And his face.
His face shines like the sun in its full strength. It's almost identical.
Face like the sun, fiery feet, powerful voice, glory attire. So the descriptions overlap massively.
They really do. Which forces the question. If he looks so much like the resurrected Christ, Why does John flat out call him an angel?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It's the core tension.
Yeah.
Is the shared imagery proof of shared identity? Or does it just show how incredibly glorious God's top messengers can be, reflecting his glory?
Okay, we need to keep that tension in mind as we move to what the angel does, because things get even more complicated when another voice enters the scene. Right, so the mighty angel is standing there, feet planted on sea and land, holding this small open scroll. His authority seems established.
hmm Visually, he's dominant. But now instructions start flying, and John himself becomes the focus.
And this is where the argument against the angel being Christ gets a major boost.
It really does. Because in Revelation 10, verse 8, John doesn't hear the angel speak next. He hears a distinct voice from heaven.
A different voice, a superior one.
Seems that way. This voice from heaven tells John to go and take the scroll from the angel who's standing there.
Hold on. If the angel is Christ, the source of all authority, looking like the sun, roaring like a lion, why is another voice seemingly higher up telling John what to do in relation to him?
Exactly. It introduces this structural hierarchy where the angel, despite his incredible appearance, seems to be, well, part of a chain of command, not the top of it.
So the angel is like an intermediary here, even with all the divine bling.
That's what this detail suggests. The voice from heaven, usually understood as God the Father, or a direct command from the throne, is giving the actual order about the angel. It's the key point for those who say, look, he's powerful, but he's still a messenger taking cues from above.
Okay, so John obeys this heavenly voice. He goes to the angel, asks for the little book.
And the angel speaks now, instructing in verse 9, take it and eat it.
Eat the scroll. That's weirdly physical.
It is, but it's symbolic, obviously.
Yeah.
It echoes prophets like Ezekiel, who were told to do similar things to internalize the message, make it part of their very being.
Right. Digesting the word of God, literally.
And the experience John has is famous. It's this paradox.
Sweet in the mouth, bitter in the stomach.
Yeah. And our sources see this as a really profound metaphor for prophecy itself.
How so?
Well, the sweetness, that's the initial joy, the honor, the sheer wonder of receiving God's truth directly. It's knowledge, revelation, connection with the divine, sweet as honey.
But the bitterness.
That kicks in once it's internalized, digested. That represents the difficulty, the burden, the often painful task of delivering that message. Prophecies frequently involve judgment, warnings, hard truths that people don't want to hear.
So the prophet feels the weight, the cost of the message inside them. It turns bitter.
Exactly. It's the anguish of the calling.
Mm-hmm.
So John has now fully taken on this prophetic burden. And immediately after, he gets his next assignment.
Revelation 10.11. You must prophesy again concerning many peoples and nations and languages and kings. A huge global commission.
Massive. It broadens his scope enormously.
Mm.
But here we hit another major ambiguity, and this one is about who is speaking in verse 11.
Is it still the voice from heaven that spoke back in verse 8?
Or did the mighty angel himself give John this new sweeping commission?
Why is it ambiguous?
It comes down to the Greek grammar, apparently. The subject isn't explicitly repeated in verse 11 in some interpretations. So did the heavenly voice continue speaking, or did the angel take over?
And why does it matter so much?
Well, think about it. If the voice from heaven gave the commission, the angel remains subordinate, just holding the scroll. But if the mighty angel himself issues this authoritative global command to John,
Then that suggests he has the authority to commission prophets on that scale, which sounds pretty divine.
precisely, it would strongly support the idea that he possesses the kind of authority usually reserved for God or Christ.
So it's like a grammatical hinge point that the whole identity could swing on.
It kind of is. I mean, this isn't just about theology. It's deep into textual analysis, too. The tension between angel and Christ is perfectly maintained right to the end of chapter 10.
Okay, so let's follow the instructions into chapter 11, because the actions described there, again, seem to involve language only God would use. All right, so John's eaten the scroll, got this global mission brief. What's the very next thing?
Chapter 11, verse 1. He's immediately given something else. A measuring reed, like a staff.
Not for building something, though.
No, it seems more like an act of demarcation. Measuring in this context often signifies ownership, protection, setting something apart. Spiritual assessment, maybe?
And he's told to measure very specific things.
Yes. 3 things. God's temple, the altar within it, and crucially, the people worshiping there.
So marking out the sacred space and the faithful community.
Yeah, that's how it's usually interpreted. It's like identifying and spiritually sealing or reserving the true heart of worship, the faithful remnant, before a time of trouble. God is claiming his own.
But he's also told not to measure something.
Right. Verse 2, leave out the court, which is outside the temple. Do not measure it.
Why leave that out?
Because, the text says, it has been given over to the Gentiles or the nations, and they will trample the holy city for 42 months.
Okay, so the measuring defines the protected core, while acknowledging a period where the outer, more visible aspects of the holy city are overrun.
Exactly. It sets up this dynamic, internal preservation amidst external chaos. The 42 months is a key prophetic timeline we see elsewhere too.
And right after this measuring instruction, the focus shifts again, introducing these incredibly important figures.
The two witnesses. Verse 3 gives us this absolute pivotal statement. And I will grant authority to my two witnesses.
Okay, I will grant authority. Who is I?
That is the question again, isn't it? And maybe the most critical one. These witnesses will prophesy for 12,260 days.
Which is the same length of time as the 42 months, just counted differently.
Precisely. 3.5 prophetic years. And they'll do it wearing sackcloth, the symbol of mourning, repentance, urgent warning. Their ministry runs parallel to the city being trampled.
But back to the speaker. I will grant authority to my two witnesses. Why is that phrase so significant?
Our sources hammer this point home. That little word, my, the possessive pronoun. Who has the inherent right to call God's prophets my witnesses?
Only God himself, or Christ acting as God.
That's the argument. It implies ownership. And coupled with the phrase, I will grant authority, which is a sovereign act, something only God can bestow. Well, if the mighty angel said this,
It's almost game over for the just an angel theory. It sounds undeniably divine.
it really pushes the needle hard towards the angel being Christ. If he's commissioning his witnesses with divine authority, that seems to settle it.
But we still have that nagging voice from heaven back in chapter 10 ordering John around.
Exactly. The counter-evidence doesn't just disappear. Is it possible John is just narrating fluidly, and the ultimate source of the I will grant statement is still that voice from heaven merely channeled through the angel?
So the angel might just be relaying the command, not originating it.
It's possible. So we're left with this incredible picture: divine appearance, cosmic stance, maybe divine commissioning power, but still called angel, and potentially still operating under orders from above.
The tension is maxed out. We have strong evidence pulling in both directions.
Perfectly set up for the final showdown, you might say. Let's dedicate the next part to properly weighing up these two competing arguments, drawing on the synthesis our sources provide.
Okay, this is it, the heart of the debate. We've got two clear sides. Let's lay out argument number one. The mighty angel is Christ.
Right. The case for Christ really leans heavily, first and foremost, on that stunning appearance we discussed.
The rainbow, the sun face, the fire feet, the lion's roar.
Exactly. These aren't just generic, powerful angel attributes. As we saw, they directly mirrored descriptions of God's throne glory in Ezekiel and Christ's own revealed form in Revelation 1 and 4.
John seems to be deliberately using the absolute highest symbols reserved for God and the Messiah.
It feels intentional, doesn't it? Why use the specific Lion of Judah roar if you just mean a loud noise?
Yeah.
It forces the connection.
Okay, so appearance is pillar one. What else supports the Christ identity?
This is where it gets really interesting theologically.
Yeah.
The idea of the resurrection state.
Ah, yes. You mentioned this might explain the angel title. How does that work?
Well, proponents point to passages like Luke 20 and Mark 12. Jesus is talking about the resurrection, and he says those who are worthy, they neither marry nor are given in marriage. And then he adds, they are like the angels. Or, more literally from the Greek, he's angelos, angel-like, or equal to the angels.
So resurrected beings achieve a state similar to angels.
That's the idea. They operate on a different plane, beyond earthly limitations. Now think about Christ. He is resurrected.
Oh.
His body is glorified, seated at God's right hand.
Right.
So perhaps when John sees him here, descending with power, the term angel or mighty angel isn't denying his divinity, but describing the mode of his appearance, his glorified, angel-like Evangelos state.
So angel refers to the form or state of his manifestation, not his essential nature as God.
That's the argument. It's a clever way to reconcile the title angel with the overwhelmingly divine imagery. It's not a disguise. It's a reflection of his resurrected reality.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. It bridges the gap.
It does. And it leads back to the authority point, too. The power to commission my two witnesses.
Which, as we said, sounds inherently divine. Only God owns the prophets and can grant that kind of authority.
Correct. And we have to remember Christ's fundamental nature. He is God, the second person. He sustains everything. Even if he appears in a specific form, Son of Man, or perhaps here in an angel-like form, his core identity is unchanged. For supporters of this view, the divine actions and language here simply outweigh the title angel.
But what about the voice from heaven ordering John in chapter 10? How do they explain that apparent subordination?
They might suggest it's an internal dynamic within the Trinity for the sake of the mission. Think about Revelation 5, where the Lamb, Christ, takes the scroll from the one on the throne, the Father. There's an interaction, a sequence.
So it could be the Father giving specific instructions to the Son who is carrying out the mission on Earth, a functional hierarchy within the task.
Exactly. It wouldn't necessarily compromise their co-equal nature, but reflect the operational roles within the plan of salvation or judgment.
Okay, that's a really compelling case for the angel being Christ, especially bringing in the Eis Angelos idea. But we have to give the other side equal time. Argument 2. He's just what the text says, a very powerful but created angel.
Right. And this argument's strength lies in sticking closely to the text and its structure. The absolute biggest piece of evidence is that voice from heaven in 10.8.
The command coming from above the angel.
Yes. If this figure is supreme deity manifested, why is someone else giving orders regarding his props, essentially? It just doesn't sit right structurally for many interpreters.
It implies a chain of command, with the angel not at the very top.
Precisely. For those who prioritize how the narrative is constructed, that external command is a huge hurdle for the Christ theory. It clearly suggests the angel is acting under higher authority.
And then there's the most obvious point.
The name itself. He's called an angel, angelos, and specifically mighty angel, angelos Ishros.
A term used elsewhere in Revelation for an angel.
Exactly, like in Revelation 5.2, a mighty angel issues a challenge. So the simplest, most literal reading is that John means what he writes. This is an exceptionally powerful celestial messenger, but a messenger nonetheless. To say he's Christ is to, in a way, ignore the label John himself provides.
Okay, but the imagery, the sun face, the rainbow, the lion's roar, how does just an angel view account for that? If he's created, why does he look like the creator?
This hinges on the idea of reflection or representation. Angels, especially high-ranking ones, have always acted as God's representatives.
Like the angel of the Lord in the Old Testament.
Exactly. Sometimes that figure speaks as God, carries God's authority, and reflects his glory so intensely that people react as if they've seen God. Think of Manoah, Samson's father, saying, "We shall surely die, for we have seen God," after the angel of the Lord appeared.
So the angel's appearance isn't his own glory, but a perfect reflection of the one who sent him.
That's the argument. He's mirroring the divine glory because he's on a divine mission. The majesty belongs to the sender, not necessarily the messenger himself. The shared imagery shows the source of the power, not necessarily the identity of the bearer.
So the angel is like a perfect ambassador wearing the king's insignia?
A very good analogy. And this ties into another complex theological point. The idea of functional subordination within the Trinity, even if the angel were Christ.
We touched on this. Even if it is Christ, his role as son might involve taking direction from the Father in the context of the mission.
Yes. While they are equal, in essence, Philippians 2.6, Scripture does show Christ operating in submission to the Father's will during his earthly ministry and potentially in his ongoing mediatorial role. Remember John 14.28, the Father is greater than I. Not in nature, but perhaps in role or position within the economy of salvation.
So this argument says either he's just an angel reflecting glory, or even if he were Christ, the voice from heaven giving orders fits the pattern of the Son operating under the Father's directive within time and space.
Exactly. It provides a way to handle the hierarchy issue, whether you see him as an angel or as Christ fulfilling a specific subordinate task in that moment.
Wow. Okay, so both sides have really strong points, drawing on different aspects of the text appearance versus structure, title versus action, theology of resurrection versus theology of representation and subordination.
It leaves us in a state of genuine tension, doesn't it? The evidence pulls strongly both ways.
Which is why your sources advise caution about being too dogmatic.
Absolutely. The analysis we looked at strongly recommends against landing too hard on one side. To insist he must be Christ, or must be only an angel, might be missing the point.
What is the point then?
Perhaps the ambiguity itself is the point. It forces us to grapple with the immense majesty and authority involved in this stage of God's plan. The focus shifts from who exactly is this messenger to, wow, look at the power and divine backing behind this message and these actions.
So the safest path is just to stick with John's term. a mighty angel.
That seems to be the most faithful approach to the text as written. Acknowledge the Christ-like features, acknowledge the structural hierarchy, and leave the precise identity open, focusing instead on the overwhelming divine authority being manifested. Hashtag tag outro.
Well, that was certainly a deep dive. We've navigated some really complex waters of apocalyptic symbols, Greek grammar, and high theology.
We started with that stunning visual, the mighty angel, wrapped in cloud, rainbow-crowned, sun-faced, fire-footed, imagery that immediately shouted, divine.
Then we traced his actions, delivering that strange, bittersweet scroll representing the prophet's burden.
And then issuing those commands, or perhaps relaying them about measuring the temple and, crucially, commissioning my two witnesses, actions of immense authority.
And the big takeaway for you listening is really that unresolved tension we kept hitting. Is this Christ appearing in a glorious, perhaps angel-like resurrected form, using symbols like the lion and language like my witnesses?
Or is he a supremely powerful, created messenger, reflecting God's glory but ultimately taking orders from a higher voice, as suggested by the title Angel and the narrative structure?
The evidence is genuinely compelling on both sides, and wrestling with it shows us how carefully we need to read these texts, weighing the visuals against the structure, the titles against the actions.
The knowledge we gain isn't necessarily a neat answer, is it? It's a deeper understanding of why the question is so complex, and an appreciation for the sheer majesty being depicted.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to maybe chew on this week. It connects back to that Isangelus idea becoming angel-like in the resurrection.
Right. If resurrected humans become like angels, and if God's most powerful angels can reflect his glory so perfectly that they almost seem divine, like this mighty angel,
then consider this. What does that tell us about the ultimate potential packed into creation? What's the capacity for transformation, for reflecting the Creator's light and authority that's waiting for those who are redeemed?
If being angel-like is the goal, and the top angels look this glorious, it suggests the destiny awaiting the faithful is something truly staggering, almost unimaginable in its splendor.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
We'll see you next time.